To ohmTown Daily Season 2, Episode 233 for August 21st, 2023. Tonight we're going to discuss NASA spacecraft return after 17-year trip, monetizing your children just sounds gross, VR and workplace training, DUNE, not the movie, the deep underground neutrino experiment. A film is going to be made of Slime Rancher. So film can be a slime rancher kind of business. Chewy bites the hand that feeds them goodwill. A dog Sniffer is higher tech. Too big to care, fail, etc. 3D printed post office opens for business. Save the bees, save the world. Spend or be uninvited. And these undies want you to get checked out. Next. So hello again, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI from on high, the one, the only AI.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Ooh. Red makes you go faster, so I suppose you are speaking double time today? Or?
Zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom. Oh boy. I've created a monster. Red makes you go faster. It's a Warhammer 40,000 orc thing. Is it orcs? Now I'm starting to. It's been a while since I played Warhammer 40k. Man, every time I say something, I just start maybe I don't know. I need to start playing more often, or I need to start playing the games that I keep talking about. Because it's been a long time since I played them. Particularly table. If you are into D&D and you have an opening for playing, I don't know, once a week, hook me up because I'm ready to go. I've got like 5,000 dice sitting right over there and whatever. So we've already selected all of today's articles. You want to get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, very first article. That seemed slow. That was weird. Okay, well, anyway. The very first article is over in Technology Today. NASA spacecraft reunites with Earth after 17-year trip around the sun. The NASA's Stereo A spacecraft, which launched in 2006, is going to be returning after a 17-year orbit around the sun. There's Stereo A and Stereo B. They took different orbits. Stereo A ended up taking this long trip. I think Stereo B is going to wander off into space. And I mean, let's see if I'm right about this. So for nearly 17 years, wait. There's a picture. Daniel Wu is the author of this article at the WashingtonPost.com. There's a picture, but this is an artist rendition, so whatever. For nearly 17 years, NASA's Solar Terrestrial Relations Observatory.
I was trying to see if it had any kind of acronym, but it doesn't.
Yeah, stereo.
Okay.
They pull the E.
Yeah, got it.
Spacecraft drifted through space on a lonely mission. It traveled around the sun, far ahead of Earth, conducting groundbreaking research on the solar system's star. And to get this 3D view, they created stereoscopic solar vision, where one was behind the Earth and one was going off way ahead to get the other side of the planet, of the sun, to look at it from both angles and get stereoscopic vision. So that came to fruition earlier this month when Stereo A passed between the sun and the Earth for the first time since its launch in 2006. NASA announced the flyby marked a milestone for the spacecraft and the team that monitored its progress, and a chance for Stereo A to prove its relevance almost 2 decades later. As it continues to pass by Earth, Stereo A will be used to perform new research on the sun, aided by newer NASA satellites that have been developed since its launch. What's really interesting about this is all this article is taking into account all of what NASA has done over the last 20 years for this particular beast, right? An article just landed in ohmTown about how much reliance there is now on Elon Musk and SpaceX.
That's interesting timing, isn't it?
Literally created a monster, and now what's going to come of it, right? Because all of this it's private work funded by public, but it's private profit. I find it really fascinating and a little
scary,
little freaky that this sociopath is out there. Anyway, the difference in perspective was groundbreaking. Guhat, I'm gonna ruin this name, and I'm so sorry. Guhathakurta, I guess is their name. Said Earthbound instruments can only ever observe one Earth-facing slice of the sun at a time, while the rest of the rapidly changing solar surface remains obscured. The twin stereo spacecraft from their offset positions allow scientists to capture a 360-degree view of the sun for the first time, a feat that still awes Guhathakurta. I hope I'm doing their name justice. Anyway, I described this already, but having the ability to see the entirety of the sun and then model it, it's no longer an artist's rendition. It's the facts of what's being presented by the sun. And so nobody has to wonder, the dark side of the sun, right? Now we can monitor if it does a CME on one side, what happens to the other side. We can monitor it in perpetuity. As long as those satellites stay there monitoring, then everything is awesome. I started to burst into that Lego song, everything is awesome.
Exactly.
I need to let me get that out of my head real quick. So the article is a lot of fun to read, but let's keep on going through all of that news. I guess it's still communicating, so that's always a good thing. Let me throw this into chat. And weird. We're connected, but it didn't throw the show title into... It didn't throw the show title into the chat. So I'm not sure what's going on. Well, I won't worry about it. Let's go on to the next article. This next article is over in the Prime Glass channel. Let me throw that into chat. There you go. And this is probably the weirdest headline that I'm going to be saying this year. Parent influencers monetizing your children now comes at a cost. I think it came out at a cost a long time ago, but you know what's weird though is I have no problem with like a periodic what should I say for this? Like if you think that your kid would be great in marketing at an early age and you take them to some place and they become not a like full-time
child star, but lesser.
Yeah, see, like there's a limit to what I would allow my child to be consumed by commercial enterprise. At their young age, they become just an object for marketing and performance and, dance monkey, that kind of a thing. But I wouldn't have a problem with a periodic interaction. And then whatever money they make is stored away for their college, invested so that it's their money. All of it is their money. A parent shouldn't be surviving off of their kids' money until they're like way late in their age and they just happen to be very...
the adult child's choice.
Right. And usually at that point, it's the parents. They didn't... The parent that's being taken care of either by something really expensive, some business, like a home or something like that, or medical care is already exhausted their savings because they didn't save up enough, that kind of thing, I, I wouldn't really have a concern, because we're family and that's what you do, right? At least you try to. Sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way, but when your kid is sitting there being told by the parents to do this and do that, and then when you, like, later in life, you ask the kid and they're like, yeah, I loved it or whatever, but you didn't know any better, so of course you've been groomed to love it. And maybe they had fun, but they wouldn't know any different if they were just a kid for this stage of their life. But then you look at their bank account and they've got millions upon millions sitting in the bank account, and the parents do, because they've been kind of paying themselves off of grooming this kid into being a monetized vehicle. So that, I think, is what this article is really all about. A new Illinois law forces adults who profit from their kids' content to set aside a percentage of their earnings. Does this go far enough to protect kidfluencers? I would say no. The article is over at fstoppers.com. Kim Simpson is the author. From David After Dentist to I Like Turtles. And David After Dentist is the one where the kid says so-and-so bit my finger.
Oh, got it.
I think that's the one. To I Like Turtles. We've all watched and enjoyed hilarious videos of kids on the internet. But no, I can't say that I have sat there and watched like kidfluencers or anything like that, other than to go, what the hell is this all about? But we had a project where we as adults were interacting with kids' toys to show parents and kids the kids' toys. And we didn't want children involved in this enterprise, because we thought that it would be weird, kind of groomy, like, but what do we know, right? So from watching kids unboxing toys to kid gamers on YouTube, the earning potential is an equal playing field with influencers of any age. But of course, a child cannot control their money the way that an adult can. Actually, they have zero compunction about what money is. They have no idea what the true value is, what the long-term value is. You can tell a kid what it is, but they have zero connection to what that actually means, particularly at the ages that they're talking about. So it says, while sharing family moments on social media can be a way to connect with others and share milestones, more and more parents are monetizing their children's lives online. Yeah. So when SB 1782 comes into force on July 1st, 2024, this will ensure that kids under the age of 16 appearing in viral videos receive a cut of the generated income. It should be the other way around, And even then, the kid has no bargaining power, has no context. They basically,
right. I don't even know how I feel about kids even being in the videos if it's like a constant camera on them.
right.
But then there's the compensation thing. If they're the whole focus of the channel, all the revenue should be going to them.
Right. Yeah. And my problem there is that it's the parent that's making the decision. No kid is going to stand up to their parent and say, no way in hell am I paying you, X
Well, they
amount.
probably don't even have knowledge of it. I
Right.
mean, are they really even aware that they've got X amount of dollars coming in, particularly if it's young kids?
Right. What are my real numbers here? So the law currently applies to video content made in Illinois that generates more than 10 cents per view. However, it's expected that the legislation of this type will become more widespread amid concerns surrounding child exploitation and the ever-exploding landscape of content. So the article goes deeper into this. Let me throw it into chat. There's the link. My goodness. I get feedback from time to time. At any rate, there's a lot more in this article, but it's usually what I've seen in this article is about situational awareness of this, and not so much more information about the legislation and whatnot. It seems to be pretty obvious that the legislation is on the cusp of being brought to bear, and what the real ramifications are. It is one state. It's Illinois.
It's the second thing we've seen recently, though, out of Illinois.
Go on.
And I wish I could remember the other one. But I think it was some sort of protection for children.
That bus had the license plate Mayor Watt on it. That's funny. So my concern 10 years ago and my concern today remains the same, and that is a child. There is a power imbalance and a wisdom and awareness imbalance. And a child should be a child and not a commercial enterprise. Now, that is my decision, right? If I have a child that I want to grow up with a particular mindset that I think is right, then I'm not going to allow said child to be an ongoing commercial enterprise, right? That doesn't. I'm not calling anybody else out. I'm not telling you what to do with your kid. But I don't. It doesn't sit well with me simply because I don't think that a child should be a commercial enterprise in and of themselves. It seems creepy. But then when somebody can grow up and retire by the time they're 24 because they've made millions upon millions and they make the choice that they don't want to do it anymore in any way, shape, or form, then they are completely free to do so, right? At 18, they could bow out, walk away from their parents, control. But it's going to be harder because they're groomed to follow what the parents say, and who has control of all the millions.
And they can't escape the online presence if it was extensive.
Right. They would be constantly battling it by trying to explain to people, well, I wasn't really the one in control, etc., etc. There's a thing going on right now about someone, supposedly this child, 10 years old or something like that, flashing money around all over the place. A girl of, I think, like 10, and they were posting pictures all over, I think it was Instagram and TikTok and other places, and saying that she had millions and all of this stuff, and then suddenly vaporized, and a notice was posted that the person had died. Them, like the kid and their brother. And then it came out that they're fine. And there's these huge questions circling around what's going on with this kid. I don't know what the disposition of it is, but this comes at a time when that is happening, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is the impetus for this type of response. But I guess we'll see what other states do in regards to this. Let me scroll again through this and see if maybe they actually talk about it.
Well, they have a pretty negative example in here, but it's not what you're talking about. There was apparently a family that was going to adopt a baby.
Yeah.
But they couldn't post anything for the first year, so they said, nope, we're not adopting. Yeah, that's not exactly the direction I would think that would go, but okay.
Wow.
But that tells you, it's like, where is the priority? And I think that's kind of the backbone of this article.
Yeah, and then they have another example of how a person had a daughter who at age 10 was begging to have a YouTube channel. Now, almost 10 years later, she's grateful that the internet is absent of what she would consider embarrassing videos and can make her mark in the world on her own terms. True. Yep. Yeah, so it's an interesting article, but gives you some idea of the back and forth between differing perspectives in society about what to do in an online environment, a socially media driven world where you can become a millionaire if you go viral, gain traction, play the game. Um, and by you, I mean the parent, because the kid has they have no legal standing in terms of contract negotiation and opening up a bank account and demanding money, any legal, other than they have agency to a parent or guardian, or caregiver of some type. They largely are dependent on, if not the parent, then the state or family, to keep them out of trouble. And that right there is the main problem that I have. They have zero idea of what's really going on with them. But let's keep going through the news. We've got quite a bit more to go through. So the next article is over in Technology Today. And it's virtual reality brings new vision to workplace training. Staff are being asked to put on VR goggles when they go on a course or team building session. Let me close that. It's over at bbcnews.com. I've actually been introduced to the, well, I mean, I have years and years and years and years and years of experience with virtual reality, from phobia treatment to using it in education and whatnot. And this isn't, the idea isn't even remotely new to me, but it is to actual adoption in a workplace. And so there's more and more talk about this. And one of the discussions that I've had was how to use it. And so in my scenario that I presented was, if you receive federal funds, and in many places you have it anyway, but it's called Title IX training, the scenarios are disconnected from you. You're an observer. Well, with a virtual reality headset, you become the person being harassed. So, or the one harassing, and you have to deal with the ramifications. That was the scenario. That was the situation that I said virtual reality would be exemplary in. Because no longer are you just watching a scenario going, haha, I didn't learn anything new. That kind of a thing. You're actually part and parcel to it. So Andrea Murad over at bbcnews.com it's the author for, they are the author for this article. And it says here, around you is a virtual reality, computer simulated world. Are other people also walking around as robots? Your mission is to work together to overcome a number of challenges and escape the planet in a space pod. So this is like a team building exercise where you're all robots and you have to work together. Gamification of training is also a thing that's been brewing for years and years, but it's hard to gamify. So you go on these little expeditions. Usually you have team building exercises in a hallway or in an office, or off campus, wherever, because a lot of enterprises refer to themselves as campuses. You go off campus somewhere, and have a team building exercise. Well, now you can do it in VR, and be more interactive without actually being directly seen by somebody. So you can become a little bit more outgoing. It's quite an interesting experience because you see everybody else and they're doing something. Like you could play Among Us in VR as a business teamwork thing, if not for the fact that you're going to vent somebody eventually.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that as a work, like to your work colleague.
Yeah, even if you want to. So uh, the they talk about the Brian Barnes when people are in this immersive experience, it takes away many of the preconceived notions that they carry with them when they're in the workplace. Head of research, Brian Barnes, head of research and development at Jensen 8, and it allows them to show up as themselves rather than trying to play that work character. That's what I just got done saying. Um, so, pandemic lockdowns introduced millions of workers to home working and video meetings, and now training is changing as well. The regular Zoom calls since March 2020 made us all realize that we don't actually need to be in the same room for meetings. Tell that to your employers. Good luck. They're all dragging people kicking and screaming when things are dramatically higher in cost, and we've we all acknowledge that you don't need to be in the office if you don't need to be in the office. Blah blah blah. Anyway, so again, the article goes deeper into this, but essentially, VR allows you to be more immersed. You're no longer looking at just a 2D screen from a distance beyond arm's reach. You're immersed in it. Sometimes you have to do tasks in the training, but it's part and parcel to this onboarding or grooming the culture into you regarding the material, the nature of the work, the nature of the society of the employer, or it's doing things like the Title IX training. Others point out
I
that
mean,
VR training.
anything they can do to make training more interesting, because training can be mind-numbing.
Yeah, it's usually boring as hell, but um, I think a lot of training. I think the real solution to training is doing it in fits and not 3 hour slogs trying to check the damn box and have you move on once a year. That is just absurd. It should be on demand and regularly pushed, like, hey, don't forget this, and then periodically revisit it, but in short snips, 15 minutes of something that's tactical that you might be measured on the back end as performing a certain task, and you can gamify it by making it somewhat competitive. I know that there's some organizations that have actually performance charts where people can see what the other people are actually doing. And that promotes competition as long as it is good natured and not the bottom 20. Like, what's the car company? It might have been
Enron, wasn't it? Oh, I thought it was Enron.
Enron did that too. But before Enron, it might have been IBM, might be Intel. Anyway, like fired the bottom 20%. Regardless, they could have set records. The entire employment base could have set records. They would still fire the bottom 20% performer. Anyway, I think that it's great. There are a couple of things with VR. There are problems with VR, and that's that if people don't want to spend it on their own personal version of the VR headset, it's a little gross putting somebody else's headset on. It needs to be sterilized, particularly nowadays, because you're basically clamping something onto your head, and you don't want to hot bunk a VR headset like you're on a submarine. So, so you really do.
That just sounds completely disgusting.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into work and be put in a position where I have to tell somebody, no. I'm not putting that on because, Joe just put it on, and Joe's a sweaty dude. So,
I mean, that just kind of goes against the whole purpose of some of these events, right? Like you're trying to build cohesion or whatever, and then you're suddenly creating an issue where there
yeah,
wasn't one.
this is borderline I'm quitting kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, and then there's the deeper training involved in this too. So it can show you how somebody else in VR can show you how to do the work, whatever it might be. They give a scenario about an oil rig, chemical plant, hospital emergency room. I would prefer the hospital emergency room experience be more hands-on in a full real life simulation with mannequins.
Mannequins. Yeah.
But the price for a mannequin is 10 times what it is for a VR headset, a very high quality VR headset. Yeah, you spend $500 for a VR headset, you're spending $5,000 for a mannequin, and that's like entry level models in some situations. So, but the hospital room, real lab environment is spectacular for training. You're not ever going to get that in VR. That's absurd to even consider it.
And if you're the patient, you don't want them to only have had VR training.
VR, yeah, definitely. Just the fidelity isn't there, the muscle memory isn't there. Just you have to respect that particular process, which is literally hands-on. You're sticking needles in things, you're putting masks on things, you're intubating physically, you're getting tested. If you can break somebody's neck when you're intubating, and if it's done wrong, there's really no going back. There's picking up the pieces. But in a lab environment, not VR, but in a lab environment, you actually get that connection between your direct actions and harming somebody. So I would discount most of the emergency room type of hospital environment in VR, but maybe there's something amazing out there that I don't know about.
Well, and this could be used in conjunction with it. Like maybe you start
Sure.
in VR and then do that, or maybe you do the simulation and then you refresh with VR or whatever.
Yeah, but my experience with virtual surgeon kind of shows me that I'm going to be chopping off people's arms by accident because I sneeze, and the scalpel just goes. Never mind. I
Well,
don't.
nobody who sneezes should be in medicine.
Wait, what? You're. That's.
I'm glad you were paying attention.
uh, okay, everybody, you hear that? The AI is demanding that if you are capable of sneezing, you're now no longer going to be allowed in medicine. Got it.
Well, I
Well,
mean, you don't want that if you're the patient.
that's true. Wow. All right. So the next article is over in the Mobile channel. In preparation for DUNE, not the movie, scientists examine modern nuclear theory for neutrino oscillation physics. I picked this simply because of the DUNE acronym, but this is over at phys.org. U.S. Department of Energy put this together. The U.S. particle physics community is preparing for a major research program with the Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment, or DUNE. DUNE will study neutrino oscillations. These quantum mechanical oscillations are only possible because neutrinos have mass, albeit very little masses. You're a small mass. I don't know why that's so damn funny. Kiss my mass. Okay, so research at DUNE will address key questions about neutrinos, such as whether they and their anti-neutrino counterparts behave differently. They probably do, because one is an anti-neutrino. Answering these questions could help explain why the universe is composed of matter and not antimatter. Although I read somewhere that, what was the article? Inside something is dark matter. Inside the sun is dark matter. I think I just
I
read
don't
this.
know.
I'll have to hunt it down again. It's been a couple of days since I saw that, and it was a surreptitious look at something, and I didn't actually focus on it. Anyway, these studies require a detailed understanding of how neutrinos interact with atomic nuclei and nucleons, which are protons and neutrons that make up nuclei. By providing new data, DUNE will help scientists advance beyond the current understanding of neutrino-nucleon interactions, which relies on data from experiments in the 1970s and 80s. I think it's time we really should
Maybe
be
update
testing.
some of those.
Yeah. We should be testing and retesting as our technology grows. But at some point, somebody is arbitrarily going, I don't want to, or I don't want to budget it. I don't want to budget it because we haven't arguably moved our technological needle far enough. But it seems like any little bit. But the accounting, the economics of science and fundamental research is getting to the point where what they want are results, positive results, not negative results. They want a positive proof of something, and so they hedge their bets by only moving the needle when there is a really good return on investment. Again, maybe I have a narrow perspective about this, but when you get research scientists that are saying, we're going to double the number of transistors in a CPU every 2 years, it becomes a business model, not something revolutionary, right? It's trickle economics, not trickle down, but trickle economics, where you're literally just dropping the next drip so that people pay more, then pay more again. In my mind, so far, the biggest leap in technology has been NVIDIA developing AI sophisticated chips. But that's still not a, I was going to say quantum leap ahead. But we're not even, like, nothing is so revolutionary that it's changing the dynamic. It's just building a business model. So it's very frustrating. Well, in this particular instance, this is fundamental research, Large Hadron Collider level tech, where you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but you're, as a researcher, pretty damn sure that 40 years plus since the last experiment in this field, we've got more sophisticated sensor technology. Or not.
Yeah, I feel like this is like the makings of a Marvel supervillain or something.
Yeah, I agree. But it'll be fun. What superhero do you think is going to come out of this? You'll have to come up with one for our next show if you don't have one right now.
I don't know, but it would have to involve the word DUNE.
Oh, really? Okay. So the person's superpower would be what? Dust?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Warcrafter's channel. Slime Rancher is becoming a film. I cannot believe this. Developer Monami Park's Slime Rancher is one of Steam's highest rated games and an enormous commercial success, having sold over 6 million copies since launching in early 2016. The game recently received a sequel, Slime Rancher 2, which launched in September of 2022 and remains in early access. That's kind of the new beta, perpetual development. At some point it exits when the developer says, I'm tired of, like, insinuating new features into this prototype or this live beta. And now, as first reported by Deadline, it's getting a film adaptation, which I think is great. The only issue that I have with Slime Rancher and Slime Rancher 2 is it has a definitive beginning and end. If it was a survival base builder, I think that it would have legs still to this day. People would be building a ranch. And if it's co-op, then it's even more fun. But it is neither of those things. But survival base builders is kind of like the thing nowadays. And there's really big competition out there. But nothing as fun as, and by fun, I mean comic booky, cartoony, anime style. You know, it's just a fun game that has zero to no violence other than throwing splorts everywhere. And collecting
But I don't
slimes.
really see it being a film. Like, it looks like a fun game, but I just don't see the connection to a film like I might with some other games.
Well, there's a storyline in it. And so
There
they're
is.
they're converting that storyline into an actual film, is my expectation. Or they're taking the the bones of it and then adding more to it. Rich Stanton over at PCGamer.com puts it together, and the deck statement says, "In a world where slime roams free, one woman's job is to ranch it." All right, buddy. So, if you can turn Mario or Sonic into Hollywood blockbusters, then why not the adventures of a slime rancher called Beatrix LeBeau? By the way, the reason why Mario and Sonic can be turned into Hollywood blockbusters is because they have a massive 40-year ongoing uh, customer base, not a 7-year launch that basically was a flash. And then in 2022, they launch Slime Rancher 2, and that cannot possibly be matching the success of the first one. I don't get people talking about it like the original Slime Rancher.
Right. And I also don't see, like, Mario to me is one of those things that everybody recognizes,
Yeah.
whether you're a gamer or not. I don't
Yeah.
see that with Slime Rancher.
Yeah. And I see both of those, Mario and Sonic. They both are coming from early 80s, late 70s, I think. When did they actually come out? When did Mario Brothers actually come into existence? Sonic the Hedgehog too, because
I think Mario was late 80s, maybe.
I remember them as video games at a laundromat when I was young. So, um, it has to have been like
Oh, it's
40
'83
years.
for Mario Brothers.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, it'll probably be a fun watch if you are into Slime Rancher, but I don't think that it has the legs that for comparison to Mario and Sonic. But I think that there are enough people that this thing would be just fine on Netflix or something like that. But big screen movie, I don't see it. Um, that said, though,
And it look
it's a fun
sorry,
game.
it looks
Go
like
ahead.
Sonic the Hedgehog might be from 1991.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, both of those were actually games, like um, uh, cabinet games, and then turned into computer games, and then turned into iterations and an entire ecosystem around both of those. And that constant demand and that constant care and feeding of the world building is what led to it being able to be turned into a movie. I think this is rushing the gun. But if somebody's willing to foot the bill, it's a fun test to see if a game with 6 million copies sold is good enough to be a movie. So let's keep on going. So this next article is over in ohmTown Daily. The artists behind Chewy's viral pet portraits are furious over a new contract that cracks down on creative control. I'll be honest, I actually looked a little bit into this because I was curious about the context of this. Um, so Chewy is a pet food and supplies, toys, and whatnot business. Um, and apparently they have a social media portion on their site that allows pet owners to send photos. And then some
I didn't know
random
that.
contracted artist will grab the photo, do some portrait of it, and then send them the portrait. And this is done randomly. I don't think people pay for it.
Oh,
Yeah. And so it says Chewy has become known and loved for surprising customers with portraits of their pets. In August, Chewy announced its new artist fee would increase from $30 to $35 per portrait. The $5 raise came with a new, more restrictive contract. See, I don't think that is something that the customer pays. I've never seen it, so I don't know how this actually works. because it's not like you can surprise customers with a portrait of their pet
Right. You'd
and
have to
charge
send
them
it without charging them. Yeah.
$35, right? So I had to read a little bit about this because I did not want to go into this one. It's a little more complex. Um, and so Jennifer Ortocalis Dawkins, I think, wrote this article for businessinsider.com. And the $5 raise from $30 to $35 per portrait came with a new, more restrictive contract. And here's the kicker here. Talk about be careful what you ask for, right? So the portraits are popular on social media. Customers share the 6x6-inch canvases in awe and sometimes in tears. Customers can't commission or request the portraits. They're sent seemingly at random at Chewy's discretion. The paintings are based on photos customers upload to the site, so it's totally free to the customer. The $35 now bounty, I guess, goes to the artist. Okay, that's my understanding. So, but here's the kicker for this. To go from that $30 to $35, if you want to be an artist for Chewy, you have to sign a contract. And the contract stipulates that the artist is no longer in control of the portrait and can't even sign the artwork.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Insider reviewed the email from Chewy as well as responses to Chewy from 6 artists. They also spoke with 4 Chewy artists who talked on condition of anonymity, citing fears of retaliation from Chewy and fellow portrait artists. And Insider has verified their identities and their employment as independent contractors for the company. And so basically for this $5 increase, they've got such a restrictive contract now that I can't imagine any artist wanting to do this, because the only way they could get any notoriety for their beautiful works of art is an implication that they are selling their work to Chewy customers, because their name cannot be put on it. So they basically, anybody would be able to hold up that picture and go, I did this. And then it becomes
Right.
they said kind of a scenario. I mean, it's easy to verify, but you actually have people out there that are willing to, believe me. I've worked with enough artists in distance-based scenarios to realize that some unscrupulous will take other people's work and claim it as their own, and I have to do the due diligence to verify that that art is actually theirs. And that's how you end up with kind of crap work, and then you have to claw back. Look, what you sold me on isn't really what you're telling me, right? Well, when their name is actually on it and I can actually see it and I can see their portfolio and all of it is substantiated, the provenance of their artwork is sound, then they're worth their money. But $5 to basically delete yourself from ownership of the work? The contract stipulated that they could not contact Chewy employees. It's unclear whether the stipulation also meant that those artists are not allowed to contact each other, but many of the artists who responded to the email or spoke to Insider said that they believe this was the case, so you can't talk to each other, which that's illegal. This is an unenforceable contract. You can't stop people from talking about money. You can't stop talking about people talking about their contract. Even with an NDA, it's not an enforceable element. The new contract introduced a batch limit of 40 portraits per 10-day period, while the artists who talked to Insider said that they completed between 10 and 20 portraits a week. They said they knew of artists who completed more than 40 a week. So this is what it looks like. It's the little 6x6 portrait based on something that's from the website.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting because Chewy, I think, has a pretty good reputation. I don't know what's going on here.
So another contract stipulation, artists can't sign their work. And then it says the mysterious Chewy portrait artist. Finding a Chewy artist is a lengthy quest for the most enduring online sleuths. For years, customers have posted on Reddit and Instagram in search of the artist behind the canvases. A scribble at the bottom of a Chewy portrait is the only way to trace the work back to its creator, and now they're removing that. So, interesting. I don't know if there's something on the other side, but there isn't a signature here. You know?
Right, but that's a new one, so maybe that's under the new contract.
Well, it's this month. How far back did that contract actually go into? The old contract end and the new one begin? So it's interesting, as all of the articles are. But $35, and now they're being rate limited to 40 in a how many day period?
10-day period.
Can you do 40 of these in a 10-day period?
Well, according to the article, some people had.
That's insane.
I mean, there could be other reasons for limiting it, like quality.
Yeah, and that's where you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
So I don't really have a problem with that piece. I don't like the lack of signature.
I don't like the control that you can't talk to anybody. I don't like the deleting of my identity and it's my work, my skill. It's still my copyright. It's my work, for crying out loud. I should be able to put my name on it. But I think it's probably because something has transpired without it being made public. A name was available. Somebody, some sleuth actually followed through and found the person in the real world and asked for commercial work privately. And Chewy didn't really appreciate that. So there you go.
That's a good piece of artwork at the top of the article. For those in the podcast, they have pet portraits, and one is peeling over, and it shows a contract on the back and a disgruntled artist underneath.
I would say unhappy, not disgruntled. Has a negative connotation. I would say unhappy. A disgruntled artist would be setting fire to the other portraits.
Okay, that was a stronger term than intended.
All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Dogs sniff out COVID more effectively than tests. Dogs can be faster, more precise, less expensive, not to mention friendlier method of detecting COVID-19 than even the best current technology, a new review shows. We'll go over to futurity.com and Sonia Fernandez from UCSB. Interesting. It says here a growing number of studies over the past 2 or so years has highlighted the power of dogs in detecting the stealthy virus and its variants, even when they are obscured by other viruses like those from common colds and flu. It went from 4 papers to 29 peer-reviewed studies. That includes more than 400 scientists from over 30 countries and 31,000 samples, says Tommy Dickey, professor emeritus at the University of California, Santa Barbara, who, with collaborator Heather Junquera of BioScent Incorporated, gathered the recent massive number of findings into a review in the Journal of Osteopathic Medicine. Is that the Sniffer Med?
No, unfortunately. I wish there was like olfactory or something.
Oh, really?
In the title.
From their rigorous survey of exclusively peer-reviewed studies published by traditional academic publishers covering their field and clinical experiments, Dickey and Junquera assert that the collective research demonstrates that trained scent dogs are as effective or often more effective than the antigen tests we're keeping handy at home. Well, I don't have a golden retriever sitting next to me all the time.
I was gonna say, it's a little more convenient to keep the test kits in your pantry than that number of dogs.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure out what the origin of this virus was. But all of the forensic data is gone. Like absolutely gone. Because when they should have gone over to the wet market and gotten the animals and tested in a holistic way, all they did was close it down. No samples were taken, apparently. And obviously the lab is not going to be running up to us and saying, hey, here's all of our samples. Guess what? It matches. So bad bat it is in perpetuity until the time machine works, and then we can go back and check it all out. Where did I throw the... Hold on a second. So where was the DUNE article? I'm gonna back up a little bit.
I think it was 2 back.
So,
It was.
right, so that, but Slime Rancher.
Right, it was 2 back from the Chewy one.
So there's the DUNE one. So I guess I didn't throw the Slime Rancher article in there. So sorry for the VOD is going to be a little broken. Because I threw that in there, and now here's the dog one. So sorry about that, folks. So the next article here is that Futurity one about the dog sniffing COVID out. This has been an ongoing thing. I wasn't too surprised when the article came in. It's just another feather in the cap for scent dogs that have the ability to snuffle out one thing or another, but they have to be trained to do so, and they're not always available. Scent dogs such as beagles, basset hounds, and coonhounds would be the ideal dog for the task, given their natural tendencies to rely on odors to relate to the world, but the studies showed a variety of other dogs are up to the challenge given a few weeks of training. Puppies and older dogs, males and females, purebreds and mixedbreds, all performed admirably, and in one study, a quote-unquote problem pit bull terrier that had been abused found a second chance by becoming a perfectly capable COVID detector. Right on. And so, not to be limited to just COVID, they've had bouts of research for cancer and diabetes and many actually other ailments where detecting, I guess, the chemical makeup of whatever the ailment is or whatever the off-gassing is, I suppose, can be snuffled out by a dog and not by a scientific tool, which I think is amazing. We have to replicate that right there. A dog sniffer.
There's not much that's like a dog sniffer up close in the camera.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and it's like point blank, folks. So if you're listening to this via the podcast, yeah, it's like all up in your nose. Let's keep on going, though. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily, and it is Cargill ingredients are probably in every meal you eat. That makes the company's environmental goals a big deal. Cargill, the largest private company in the U.S., buys from farmers and ranchers in 70 countries. Insider spoke with Pilar Cruz, Cargill's chief sustainability officer, about its environmental work, and the company has faced criticism over hazards including deforestation and greenhouse gas emissions. Cargill buys corn, soy, palm oil, cocoa, livestock from farmers and ranchers in 70 countries, then transports the goods around the world and processes them to be sold to companies like McDonald's and Nestle. But it's massive. Go ahead.
Have you even heard of this company? It's the largest private company in the U.S. I've never heard of it.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of it. Yeah. It's just a juggernaut. And what it does for good is largely as a means to pay down its taxable burden because it has revenue of close to 200 billion, I guess, a year or something like that. Let's see if I can. Well, I won't be able to pull up numbers because I just don't work that way live in the show unless I'm doing a show specifically about business. But That gives Cargill, which pulled in revenue, there it is, 165 billion in its last fiscal year. Enormous power to improve the food system so it doesn't lead to deforestation and carbon dioxide and produce carbon dioxide and methane emissions that are frying the planet. Some environmentalist groups, including Greenpeace and Stand.Earth, accuse Cargill of not doing enough on those fronts, even though the agribusiness giant for decades has tried to root out suppliers who clear tropical rainforest in South Africa and Southeast Asia. Cargill is among major food companies that promised to end deforestation in their supply chains by 2020, but failed to meet that target. So it is an interview. I won't go through the whole thing. They ask a bunch of questions. What is Cargill doing about climate crisis? They do several things, but it's still not enough. And it's a private business, as far as I remember. And so it doesn't have public stock trading. So it doesn't have public disclosure. So you have no idea what its profit margin is. You have no idea what it's actually doing, because nobody gets reports except for the internal stockholders. There is still stock in a privately held business. Just the public has no idea. There's no, documents that are disclosed publicly. So why didn't Cargill meet the 2020 deadline to end deforestation and push that back to 2030? It's because it's not profitable to force your hand, your own hand. My problem with mega corporations like this is that they're too big to fail, too big to care, not fast enough to pivot with newer technologies unless they decide that there's enough room in their profit margin to do so. And it because so much power is there, it's going to be impossible for small business to creep their way up to this size, because what ended up happening is Cargill just acquires more and more businesses. And so when some young upstart comes chomping at the heels of Cargill, they just buy them, because it's fiscally irresponsible for a business that is moving up, but the board and stockholders catch wind of a potential offer from Cargill. Well, no business is going to sit there and go, oh, you're going to give us 4 years worth of revenue off of our stock? Oh, okay. The board would get sued into oblivion by an activist investor. And without a doubt, somebody's going to do that, Not that that's actually happened. I don't know the machinations of what has transpired with all of Cargill. I just know that they're a juggernaut out there.
Well, I also have a problem with mega corporations because they usually have so much in the way of resources that they can kind of buy down their transgressions. Like, it's one thing to actually have sustainable practices. It's another to go, oh, whoops, we did something over here, so let's fix something else over there and call it a wash. Well, it's not a wash.
Right. The damage was done over there. You shouldn't do the damage over there. So, exactly. As I just got done saying, you scroll down to the end of this article and it says Cargill made $165 billion in revenue last year. It's revenue. I understand that. Where they got that number, it might be a public disclosure by Cargill, just to feather in their cap this. But how much of that is the company? How much of that is the company investing in sustainability initiatives? And do you think it's enough given the urgency of the climate crisis? And blah, 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 smoke and mirrors. They say from a financial standpoint, as a private company, we don't share exact numbers, but I can tell you sustainability is a core part of our company strategy. Yeah, as long as it buys down taxable burden. But these mega corporations, they don't pay the same ratio of taxes. They'll sit there and say they pay, a shit ton in payroll tax and whatever, this and that. But the fact of the matter is that as a value of their income, your paycheck is being taxed at a higher rate than their entire revenue stream is being taxed. You know, you're being taxed somewhere, unless you have some miraculous machinations under your belt where you can drive down the percentage, you're paying somewhere between 25 and 33% of your paycheck into taxes. But at the end of the year, these mega corporations like Cargill end up paying either zero because they can kick financial burdens to the next year, or they pay somewhere in the single digits because they have other machinations in play. Now, I always get people that sit there and say, well, change the tax code. It's not up to me to change the tax code. It's up to society to demand that the tax code be changed. But the tax code is like wizardry. It's in an arcane language that's bound by legalities. And you have to try and get the people that are going to be most impacted by pissing off their paychecks to change their ways and make it better for the consumer and for the country and for society, while still sitting there saying, fighting off all of these companies that are going, well, we do great good. We give everybody jobs. Yeah, you give everybody jobs at wages that are substandard for the cost of living today. I mean, we've had this discussion time and time again. The ratio between the executive suite leaders and whatnot, and the common Joe of the enterprise is out of alignment with what society should demand. And I've had people argue with me about the fact that, oh, well, they're taking the risk. No, these businesses are not taking the risk anymore. It is not a startup. It isn't this scrappy little dude in a warehouse or their garage. The risk is gone. These are blue chip, long-term, long-tail stocks that, unless they completely, start, I won't even get into it. They would have to do something horrible. And even then, they seem to be able to get their way, even when they do something horrible. I mean, for crying out loud, these large companies like this have gassed entire communities where people died in the dead of night, and there was zero legal repercussions because it's in a different country. Not Cargill. I don't know about Cargill's woes. I'm not linking this to Cargill. I'm linking this to mega corporations that have political influence, power, money, legal might, etc. I mean, we really should demand a little bit more. But Cargill is massive. Just absolutely massive. Try and take a little bit, try to sneak a pepperoni off of their pizza, and they'll slam the book on you so hard that you'll give them extra pepperonis back. Here you go. Here's some more. I'm really sorry that I tried to get a bite. Anyway, let's keep on going. The next article is over in Constructagon. India's first 3D printed post office opens for business. While additive construction, or AC, is booming the world over, India is among a handful of countries that leads the pack for widespread and high-profile adoption. Most recently, the nation inaugurated its first ever 3D printed post office, located in Bengaluru, right? Luru, yeah, Karnataka. The project was first announced in September of 2022. I swear we've actually talked about this. Before work officially commenced in March 2023. Construction took just 44 days. And the building was completed in May and opened its doors in on August 18th. So just 3 days ago. The structure was estimated to cost 2.6 million rupees, or just $32,000. I'm rounding up, 31,200. About 40% of the traditional construction techniques, I would say costs of traditional construction techniques. So let's take a look at this. I mean, obviously, it's not a massive building. It's over at 3dprint.com. Let me throw this article. Yeah. Let me throw this article into chat. Sorry about the dead air there. Michael Molich, who put this article together. And I can't really go into much of what this is. There's a video there on the site. So if you follow the link through ohmTown, you'll be able to see it. It's in the show notes. It's over on YouTube. If you're hearing this on the podcast, I move everything over each night and try to get it over to the podcast at that night, the same night that we do the recording, but it's a little tougher. Under the guidance of the India Institute of Technology, Madras, the 3-story, 1,100 square foot building was built by L&T Construction, one of the few companies in India to pursue AC, additive construction. So this is basically a 3D printer. It puts layer after layer of cement, concrete. It could be anything, actually. I mean, it could be taking clay and extruding it down layer after layer, but I think it's cement. And once it's built, this thing, a hurricane could go through this right over this building, and it isn't going to go anywhere. Maybe the roof will lift off if it isn't a cement building roof. But otherwise, it's one contiguous piece. It's almost impervious to water infiltration because it's one contiguous piece. Other than the windows, which will probably be the one place where it can leak. And even then, if they did it right, it's bound in there so tight that nothing's going to move. I think that it is awesome. And this is what I want coming to the US. This is what I want being built with regularity here in residential areas. The biggest problem, though, is aesthetically, it is the opposite of what people have always here in the States appreciated, which is that timber construction.
Well, and also square rooms.
Well, that's a design choice. You can make square rooms with a 3D printer. It might have interior corners that are curved, but those can be squared off, and it doesn't take much, while it is still wet, they can go in there and carve that corner out. But you can get 90-degree corners, and you can get 90-degree corners with greater, and verticals with greater precision and reliability than a timber framed houses. Mainly because the people that go into your, average everyday suburban home site to build, they don't care about your walls being perfectly vertical and 90 degrees. They've got a time frame. They want to get it done. And if you go in and try and find a square corner in your house right now, I really doubt that you'll find one that is as square as what a 3D printer can do.
Right. I mean, and if you try to roll something on your floor, maybe it shouldn't roll, but it might. Because everything isn't squared off.
And even then, a lot of the times it's been squared off after the fact. Like they've put a shim in a window so that it's straight. But it's kind of haphazardly put there. And if you peel off the surrounding flashing from your window, you'll see that there's all of these things that are just wedged in there to keep the window level. Whereas in a 3D printed house, the window is level and vertical and true by design, not by manipulation after the fact. And add to it, it's nearly soundproof. It's environmental proof. The only thing that's bad about it is it kicks off a lot of carbon dioxide. It is a greenhouse gas emitter. Whereas our regular homes, the ones that most people live in, right, breathe. They're not hermetically sealed. You may not feel the wind, but it's there. But I appreciate 3D printing, and I think it is the future. I'm just waiting for building code and society to catch up with where I want it to be, which is, honestly, I don't know if I could move to India because the population is just way high. And I don't
I was
know.
thinking it was the temperatures or the monsoons.
No, I could probably deal with all of that, but there's a lot of people. Let's keep going. The next article is over on Warcrafters. Sling cards to save the planet in this free ecology strategy game. I tried this game. I'm going to go right over to the source. I played this game. The real-time card game has you finding a path to survive climate change. It is free. It's called Decarbonize. Let me mute this and rewind it, and you can just play it. Or you can watch it being played. It's over at PC Gamer, and Jonathan Bolding put the article together. You basically play cards, and to play the cards, you have to kind of stack the deck in a way that allows you to get 3 different types of resource. And let me see if I can pull it up real quick. It's hard to... okay, so there's basically a resource, like a pink coin, a green coin, a yellow coin, and a blue coin. If I remember right, it is... Actually, I don't think that... Yeah, there's no yellow. No, I'm sorry. There's no green. So there's these right here. These are the coins that you need, and those coins buy cards. Not these cards up here. These are actually things that are doing negatives to you. And I only played it once because I wanted to experience it, but I lost in 7 rounds. Even though I thought I had the resources, apparently I did not. So I'm not sure what I did wrong, but I'm going to play it again. Your ultimate goal is to find any number of hypothetical, practical, and fanciful solutions among the cards, and producing such a golden card will lead you to victory. I guess that's what the golden cards are. Oh man, thought I was going to survive without having a cough in one episode. Anyway,
it's not too much to ask for.
No, it's not. So it is a somewhat casual game. You can speed it up by hitting the double arrow here or pausing the game so you can take a break. But it's standard, just regular on play. Again, it's called Decarbonize on Steam, and it's free. Various ecological disasters can befall you. That's what all of these cards are up here. Permafrost decay, energy shortage. I had starvation or something like that. Ended my ride after 7 rounds. And it has things like an encyclopedia that explains what the cards are. And you have to do certain things, upgrade and whatnot. Seems like it might be fun. I don't know if it has legs because, well... The one time I played it, I died in 7 rounds. I think it actually said 7 point something, so there might be like an incremental step in between there. So like when you're talking to a kid and you ask how tall they are, and they say, I'm 4 feet 2 inches or whatever. That 2 is significant. So I think I had 7.2 was my turn round. I don't know for sure, but anyway, what do you think? Can you see, did you check out the graphics and all of that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it could be fun. I haven't played it.
Yeah, totally free, folks, so go and check it out. It's kind of like a game. It's a card game that's free and based on the concept of ecology and being earth friendly and aware and all of that kind of stuff. There's another game that's a lot like more like Minecraft, called Eco. It was a huge hit for a while on Steam and on Twitch, and it was actually scientifically bound, where you couldn't really win the game. The only way to win the game would be to wipe out society, because as you grow, you cause ecological disaster. The whole objective is to stop an asteroid from hitting the Earth. But while you're trying to develop society to build the laser that stops the asteroid, you're destroying the planet, and you largely can't stop it.
Sounds like a very cheery game.
Yeah, there's been a lot of these games that have a message that just kind of beats you over the head with the message. This game is going to be somewhat like that, but it might be fun to see how long you can survive. Eco definitely was like that, just beat you over the head senseless with this messaging. Way back when there was a Flash game that was all about, the statement that I make about one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Well, there was a game that was similar to that right about the time that the 9/11 and the response into Afghanistan and Iraq. And the message there was this Flash game that your objective was to stop the terrorists, but every time you eliminated a terrorist, it had whatchamacallit,
like it almost
collateral
caused
damage.
another. Oh, okay. I was going in another direction.
It caused collateral damage where, like, a mom or a brother or a father or somebody was also hurt, or they lost somebody, and thus turned them into into what we would have perceived as a terrorist, but they perceive themselves as a freedom fighter. So there's a lot of and it makes sense. I mean, you have to be sociopathic to not understand. Yeah, when you cause something like that, when you do something like that, it's going to create enemies. When you poison the ecosystem, you're going to destroy the very thing that gives you life. It's weird that people just go, the Earth will deal with it, whatever.
Yeah, that is not the right attitude.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like I'm peeing into the wind. Let's keep going. The next article, and this one is kind of weird. This is in ohmTown Daily. French restaurants are reportedly requiring more than $5,000 minimum spend per table and refusing reservations for returning diners who didn't spend enough at their last visit.
I mean, is this extremely upscale? Is this
the
highest Michelin rated?
I don't know. Grace Mayer over at businessinsider.com put the article together, and there is no deck statement. That title is what the title is. The Business Insider has this knack for writing essay titles.
Well, that's why they can't have a deck statement, because they wrote like a whole paragraph.
It's one and the same. Yeah, this could have been shortened down to French restaurants are reportedly requiring, more money, and then down in the deck statement, it's whatever. I could be more precise with my language, but anyway. So this is Saint-Tropez, right? This is the the Saint-Tropez that you hear about periodically, like in songs and stuff, and in writing.
Well, and like beauty products, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So some restaurants in Saint-Tropez are demanding larger tips or flat out refusing reservations to returning customers, and that diners spend $5,000 minimum for a table. How the hell is that even humanly possible?
That seems like a lot of food.
Well, okay. So the spread of digital touchscreen payment systems have made asking customers for tips omnipresent. I think livable wage should be the way we go, but I'm banging my head against a brick wall on that one. Tensions between restaurants and customers over tipping practices and extra dining fees have been boiling over this year. That actually doesn't seem to have anything to do with this article. But this incident may top them all. Some restaurants in Saint-Tropez are reportedly telling customers reservations cost over $1,500 per person and over $5,000 minimum spend for a table, according to, is it Nice Matin newspaper? Or Nice Matin? I don't know. Guardian later reported. So that's really all there is to this, right? It says these practices are odious for the resort and therefore for our clientele, but also for the local people. We have already been chased out of our flats and pretty soon we'll be chased out of their restaurants too, unable to eat out. The mayor of Saint-Tropez, Sylvia Siri, has started to address these restaurants' practices. Saint-Tropez is one of the most expensive places to live in France, is also a popular vacation spot for international travelers and celebrities. So basically, that's what they're trying to do, is make it so that you poors don't have any access to Saint-Tropez.
Not a very great practice.
It is if you want to keep the poors out. Right?
I guess if you're a billionaire in the top 1%, maybe this is appealing, and I don't know, but
okay, so this is just a Getty image, but if you were to look at this picture, would you be able to sit there and go, yeah, these are the kind of people that would be spending $5,000 per table?
no, there's
This is
no
not
way.
representative. I just
Nor
can't.
does the decor look like you could possibly spend $5,000 at one of those tables.
See, but you can spend $5,000 on anything if they demand it and you're willing to be suckered by it.
Yeah,
But I
but
can't
you'd have to
imagine.
have like 20 entrees or something to even get close to that.
No, the prices are just really high, and because you're on Saint-Tropez, you got to pay it. They'll even lean into you and say, "Don't be a poor." All right, let's keep going because this one's just too silly. The last article for tonight is Morrison's bras and pants carry NHS cancer check label. Underwear
I
labels.
don't know. Do you want that every time you put your clothes on?
Well, I'll be honest. I had to look into this because I didn't want the wrong context again. Some articles force me to do that. Most of the time, I don't. My reaction is authentic. When I first read it on the air, it is what it is. Anyway, so let me go over to the source here. But underwear labels urge people to contact their GP if they spot symptoms of breast or testicular cancer. So I had to look into this because it's the first thing that I saw was that this label used to be a plastic bottle, and it's W.M. Morrison Markets Limited underwear. Okay. So this is an article over at BBC News. Michelle Roberts is the author, and it says the NHS has teamed up with Morrison's Market to put extra labels in their underwear, reminding people to see their GP if they spot potential symptoms of breast or testicular cancer. So if you have any lumps or bumps or anything unusual, go and get checked out. Hey, brilliant. I totally buy into this messaging. But what this title made it sound like is that there was a cancer risk for these bras and pants underwear.
Oh, I see. I didn't read it that way.
So we need to talk because either I'm painfully cynical, where when you read something one way, I'm reading it another way, and I'm leading my life entirely in the wrong direction. Or I'm being pragmatic, and this is a bad title for an article. Morrison's
What is a
bras and
bad
pants.
title?
And like if you were to grab a drink or a pack of cigarettes has a cancer check label. A pack of cigarettes has that same label. So why would you? Okay, well, that cigarettes cause cancer. Of course, I'm gonna the cancer check label, for crying out loud, is reason enough for me to not buy these. How many other people are out there like me that are sitting out looking at that going, I'm not going to buy those. It used to be a plastic bottle, for crying out loud. And now I'm putting them up on the royal jewels. What are they? Are they, the underwear is really hot. Is it because they're radioactive and I'm going to get cancer? Or the Nutmeg branded boxer shorts and crop top bras will be in 240 stores in England in the coming months. A QR code on the packaging and tags direct customers to more detailed health information on the NHS website. Symptoms of breast cancer can include a lump or change in look, shape, or feel of one of the or both breasts. Although rarer than in women, men can get breast cancer too. It's very rare in men, but we're actually pretty prone to getting testicular cancer and colon cancer. So if anything is out of alignment, folks, go and get your chassis looked at, for crying out loud. Putting it off.
And do it in a timely manner, right? Don't wait.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you put it off, you delay, you're going to suffer. The GP is just going to sit there and go, well, you waited too long. You're going to hear from your doctor what I heard from mine. Your warranty is up. Really? Thanks. Really appreciate that. And with today's technology, while pretty dramatic things can happen to you, worse things will happen if you delay. So just get it done. We'd love to see you come and hang out in ohmTown long term. So don't be dumb. And if you need a motivational...
So if it takes buying these underwear.
Hey,
right?
There you go. And if you need somebody to push you because you're spooked by something, send an email to mayor@ohmtown.com. I'll give you a motivational speech to get your ass into the doctor. So they say, I want to urge everyone to be...
That doesn't sound motivational the way you said that.
I'll motivate your ass to get into the doctor. Believe me. You can hem and haw all you want.
Sergeant and
well, I mean, it's a combination of a soft roll drill sergeant. But you know what? I'm starting to get all caught up in this. So anyway, I want to urge everyone. This is an article that's saying this, not me. Although I'm probably following it the same way. Oh my gosh! Now the AI is doing weird stuff. Okay, AI, you just settle down over there. So I want to urge everyone to be aware of their own bodies. Please look out for lumps, bumps, and anything else that is unusual for you, and get checked out early. It could save your life. That's not me saying it. It's the article saying it, but I am also saying it. So anyway, they go into greater detail in this article. I won't go through all of it. But again, if you send me an email saying that you need to be pushed to go see a doctor because you're spooked about something, send me an email. I will motivate you. At any rate, man, I'm going to get just bombarded by people.
Okay, but now you got to do your I'm not a doctor.
Oh yeah, that's true. I am not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. I'm the mayor of ohmTown, which is a fictional community and town that's at the crossroads of a whole bunch of wires. And I have a sentient AI that I found on a USB stick in a parking lot that I think is actually from the future. And mainly because they're searching for their Terminator body. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's it for today, folks. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there is the AI that I just described being attached to a Raspberry Pi and a whole bunch of sensors. Go ahead.
And look, I even have a red visualizer today to match that.
Oh my gosh. Everything's red.
Yep. Well, good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
True story. Bye-bye.